This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but you're encouraged to like and share them on Facebook and other social media because it's time for the African American Scene, presented by Howard Insurance of Port St. Lucie and hosted by Rudy Howard.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Always glad to be with you here on a Wednesday night. You know, I had told you guys last week that I was going to have my kids here this Wednesday, and one of them had a conflict. So I told him, I said, oh, well, we'll do next Wednesday. And I forgot.
Uh-oh.
I'm doing a game with Greg next Wednesday. Isn't that next Wednesday the 2nd?
Ooh, well, yeah.
It
As a
is
matter of fact,
this-
yeah. Because Tuesday, Christmas was Tuesday, and New Year's Day is 1 week later, Tuesday, next Tuesday. So the second will be Wednesday.
Yeah, so, okay, well, I'll have to call them and let them know.
Okay, all right.
But anyway, we're going to try to have a uplifting show tonight. You know, we're always duking it out. You're still welcome to call up and duke it out with me if you'd like. If you think you're up to it. I'm always up to it.
They was on their best behavior last week.
Yeah, that was close, Carol.
I tuned in for a moment, and Carol was in here moderating the show, and I thought, are they just being extra nice because Carol's there?
I think so.
Oh.
I think Carol made them be nice.
Well, we all straighten up around here when Carol's here.
Yeah.
All of us. But, you know, she's known as a great moderator.
Oh, yeah.
So I bet you some of them might have thought, I don't know if I want to mess around there.
Well, I have to tell you, we're gonna have an open mic night tonight, and what we're gonna do is tell me about your wishes for 2019.
I don't think anybody will argue with you about that.
Here's, you know, I told you about the book that I read. Well, at the end of the book, she uses a poem by Langston Hughes. Mm-hmm. The American dream is a promise of freedom and hope for every individual on these shores. And Langston Hughes wrote a poem in 1935 called Let America Be America Again. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love. Second voice enters. It never was America to me. First voice comes back. Say who you are that mumbles in the dark. Second voice answers. I am the poor white fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. But far from concluding with defeat, Hughes offers a prayer of affirmation. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. Oh, yes, I say it plain. America was never America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be.
Wow.
That's pretty deep, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's pretty deep. Yeah, he covers the whole spectrum there.
And he didn't read it off of a red ball cap either.
Yes, right. and it's interesting that he talks about his vision of what America should be, and it hasn't made that vision yet. And listen, not that I want to start a whole bunch of stuff, but basically that's what Colin Kaepernick is telling you. There's an America that he knows and loves, and he wants it to be what it can be, and so he protests to make her change. So when you say, why don't you go live somewhere else? That's a horrible answer. Because the answer is he lives here. And I don't care if our poor people have more than other people in other countries. That's not the comparison. The comparison is, what does our poor people have against the other people who have within our shores? So we have, and I've had this debate with a couple of my conservative friends who really get irritated when you criticize America. I don't criticize America because I don't like her. I criticize America because I love her. I love me some America. I want America to be all of the things that she can be. And fortunately, we live in a country where you're allowed to pressure her into doing some things that she might not otherwise do.
A lot of folks don't realize that there are some countries that if you speak out against your country, they'll come and get you.
Yes.
In some countries, the freedom of speech is something that we have here that we take it so much for granted because we think freedom of speech. Oh, I can just blow up a radio show, call in, and say something. Not really, but you can call in and discuss things and then get out and vote.
Yes.
You want to really do something, you want to do some damage, you can do it in the voting booth,
Yeah.
And if you do it out of anger or out of love of your country, you're still there to do it.
That's right. It's your right. It's your entitlement. Yeah. Listen, one of the things that she says in this article that I read in the New York Times dated January 13th, 2018, in order for us to make racism go away, we have to first be honest about the fact that it exists. So this stuff about I don't see color. Boy, when somebody says that to me, I get so angry. I just get spit-fired angry when they say, well, I don't see color. Well, you don't. I'm 6 feet tall, 260 pounds. So you trying to, black man, you trying to tell me you don't see that I'm a big black man when you meet me?
If he came to help you in the middle of the night, your car was broke down, would you welcome the help or would you be afraid?
Right.
See, that's the
yeah. So don't say you don't see color. It's not. There's no harm in seeing color. It's what do you do after you see the color?
Your reaction.
Yeah. What is your reaction after you see me? Are you afraid because I'm this big black guy, or do you just see me as another human being? I see you as a black human being. If you see me as a black human being, that's perfectly okay with me. That you saw me as black, that's fine. Long as you're not mistreating me or degrading me, and that's honest. But see, like, for example, and one of my wishes for the coming year is that we have an honest discussion about immigration. If you go back over time and you look at what has happened in immigration, when the Irish came here, the Irish were abused. They were called dirty and this and that and the other. And but one of the advantages they had, they could take the O'Leary off the last part of their name, and then not everybody can look at somebody and tell whether they're Irish or Catholic or Jewish or whatever the case may be. I know I'm very bad at that. So, but with us,
well, all Italians look like who's that gangster on television? all the Italians look like him.
Yeah.
And well, what Rudy's saying is that it's hard to distinguish some because on the other side of that same fence, you've got African Americans, but you've got Jamaican Americans that are black. You've got Haitian Americans that are black, and if you have trouble deciphering which is which, there's no obvious. I'd say background that really shows on a person when you look at them and talk to them.
No.
And like if you walk up to a Haitian man and go, "What's happening, brother?"
Yeah.
and then he says, "Bonjour, monsieur," something like that. It's something in the French, Creole, and it'll blow your mind because I've also talked to some black folks from Africa that have a strong British type of dialect. Strong British.
Yes, I've heard that. I went to college with a guy who was a heck of a basketball player, Rolando Alvarez. He was my color, and he was 100% Puerto Rican, and I had never met a Puerto Rican my color. He was fully fluent in Spanish.
One of my father's brothers married a black Puerto Rican woman, and they had kids about the same time that my mom and dad had kids. So there was we had a cousin that was equivalent in our age with everybody. But Aunt Ida, she had two beautiful daughters too. One of them works at the Pentagon now, and then little Davy grew up to be Big David. And just like the Cliff was a skinny little squirt when he was a little kid running around, and the adults were chasing him around, keep him from tripping over him. But he grew up big too, and wow, to look at my cousin and to look at me, you'd say, how in the world can you guys be cousins? Well, it's that easy. That's what's going to cure the world of racism. You see, when there's more and more mixed races, mixed families, and when your granddaughter's got brown skin and you're a blue-eyed white guy, that you have to change your way of thinking all of a sudden because that dear little girl loves her grandpa, right?
Absolutely.
There's no, I'll tell you who can't see color. That's the little kids.
Yes.
They truly don't see color.
Yes.
They have to be pointed out. You have to make a big deal out of something, and they pick up on everything you make a big deal out of, so be careful.
Well, what happens eventually as they grow older, they'll hear Uncle Bill at the family gathering saying some things, and then that'll begin to influence their thought processes.
Yeah.
So that's very true.
Well, kids are very trusting of their parents and their people around them. They tend to repeat and parrot everything that's said.
Yes.
In some way or another. And when it comes out, it might not come out in the same societal situation that you're in now.
Yeah.
And it can be big problems for a child.
Yes, it can be.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm sure you probably did the same thing. I used to say growing up, I'm never going to be like my father because my father was so doggone strict. And I have been in the house when my mother was still alive, God rest her soul. And my sister and my mother would be sitting in the kitchen, and they'd look at each other and they'd go, Daddy's not dead. He's sitting right over there in the chair talking right now. And you realize all of a sudden that you're a lot more like them than you thought you'd be.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, some parents get outraged when they see themselves in their children.
Yeah.
Especially if they're doing something wrong that they really steered away from when they were kids.
Yeah.
And then a child does that, and there's a disappointment in that, but still, there's that anger that, doggone it, I've been through this. I should have been able to teach this kid better than that.
Yeah. So now, what is your dream and hope for 2019? All right. I want to hear from you. 340-1590. That's 340-1590.
Hopes and dreams. Wow.
Yeah. Let me share with you. I don't foresee there will be a truce anytime in the very near future between the two parties because there's just so much damage that has been done from past events. But what I do hope for is some civility, that we can at least get back to having civil discussions without making the other side into a monster, which is what Amy talks about in her book. How we have evolved into the point where in the past growing up, I mean, I can remember Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan debating issues, but they didn't hate each other. And in fact, they oftentimes made some pretty good legislation together because they could talk. Where we're at now is we can't talk. And Lindsey Graham, who at one time I liked, said the other night on Fox, we have to beat them down now before they take power. What kind of statement is that? That just makes it, that just edges you toward a fight. And where we're at right now with this wall, he tried to shove that down Democrats' throat. And now they're in a position that they don't have to allow it to be shoved down their throat, and they're not going to. And it's going to make for an ugly situation. I have a sneaking suspicion this government outage is going to be a little longer than most of us think, because the Democrats are being yelled at by their constituents, do not give in. Do not give in. They're getting screamed at from the sidelines from other Democrats. Don't give in. Just like Rush Limbaugh and Laura Ingraham and Ann Coulter yelled at President Trump for considering making a compromise deal, and he switched out of that deal. The same pressure's coming from the left now after what he did, because they had a deal, and they're saying, don't give in. We're not giving in. We're not going to give in. So whatever happens, happens. And it's ugly, but here's what I want to see. And I wasn't the only one that posted this out there today. Somebody else posted out there probably about an hour after I posted it out there. And I don't think they got it from me. It was just, we were just having similar thoughts. If we're going to have a government shutdown in the future, I would like legislation that says when the government shuts down, no member of Congress gets paid. No member of Congress nor the president or his staff
because otherwise
get paid.
A shutdown doesn't really mean anything to anybody except for those government workers who won't be getting a paycheck.
Well,
but when it's the ones who make the decisions, the elected officials, well, they should be out there doing their thing.
It's back to the same thing that always happens. Who are the people that are bearing the brunt of the shutdown? The middle class. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The working people who out there busting their butt every day to make a decent living for them and their family. They're the ones not getting paid.
And they're sweating a lot about it right now, too.
Of course they are.
If these politicians, though, were cut off during a government shutdown, maybe they won't be so quick to allow it to shut down.
Oh, I am sure of that. I am sure of that, that if they lost their money during the course of a shutdown, it would be handled with a much different attitude rather than political posturing. There would be some real effort to try to come to a resolution to make things happen. But any event, so I'm hopeful that in 2019 we can add some civility. That's a good place to start. I'm not going to advocate for a lot of compromise right now, because I don't think there is any to be that can be fairly done, because there's been such abuse of the Democratic Party up to this point. I mean, when I take a look at Kavanaugh, they whined and complained about Kavanaugh and President Bush. They wouldn't even let President Obama have his voice heard. Merrick Garland, his nominee for Supreme Court, they wouldn't even allow it to be heard. Then they say, well, okay, well, let's not have any more fights. Let's just try to get along. Oh, so now after you have pounded Democrats into the dirt, now you say, come on, let's compromise and be buddies. So you punch me in the face, bloody my nose, and then say, okay, let's be friends now, because I really didn't mean that. I just want to be your friend. Yeah.
Peace through strength.
Yeah. No, it can't be that way. No. And I know there's people right now looking at their radio screaming at it. He is just so lopsided. I dare you to get on here and try to challenge me about it, because I can back up everything I just said. I can give you countless examples of times that we have given in an effort to compromise, only to have it come back and be thrown up in our face. Now, I've heard honest commentators, Republican political commentators say, Democrats give in too easily. And I said this to one of my friends about a year ago. I said, that's one of the reasons why we've lost so many male supporters in the Democratic Party, because they see Democrats as soft. Now, not all Democrats are soft, that's for sure, because I know some that would tear your head off, and you better not mess with them. But I think that's the general point of view, and the only way you can deal with a bully, you got to face him down in the alleyway and take him head on. That's the only way you're going to deal with him. You got to face him, take him on, and make him or her back down. Otherwise, they will just keep abusing you. It's just the way it is. That's the reality. And we have Rich on line 1. Yes, sir.
Hi. I've been listening to your program for about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And I was taken by the fact that you've been calling for civility, but in all your comments, all you've done is hammer the other side. And about half of it has been accurate, and the other half has been inaccurate.
Tell me what I said that was inaccurate.
Well, you said that they didn't give President Obama his pick. He didn't get his pick because it was the last year of his presidency, and it was the Democrats that set the precedent on that, as far as not letting the president pick in the last few months of his presidency, as far as a Supreme Court judge is concerned.
Okay, hold it. Let's not go any further. Biden did say that. I won't deny that he said that. But the fact of the matter is, did they act on that? Did they prevent the president from picking a Supreme Court nominee, even though he said that?
But the point is...
No, that's the point. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what he said. The point is, if he said it, did he execute it?
Well, with President Obama, it wasn't in the last year of his presidency. It was in the last few months of his presidency.
That's not true again.
It certainly is.
No, it's not.
As far as you mentioned Kavanaugh's name, give me the totals of the vote on the two appointees that President Obama had. There was a huge Republican, there was a bipartisan vote for Kagan and Sotomayor. With Kavanaugh, you can't even begin to tell me that was a fair hearing, or that they were going to give him a shot from step one. They were going to torpedo him.
Well, I will say this. There is no doubt there was some holdover from what they did to Merrick Garland. I'd be lying. I'm not going to lie to you and say that there was not. that did not have a part of what that was about. The other part, though, that was about, was there an adequate investigation? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. There was not an adequate investigation. And what I don't like, and which made me mad, they started whining and crying before there was even any investigation. How dare you talk about that man like that? He's an upstanding citizen. He's a good family man, and we don't know.
Geez, they were probably under the impression that in the United States you're innocent until proven guilty.
Well,
where
yes.
Blumenthal and the rest of the Democrats stood up and they had him guilty. They condemned him before anybody had a chance to ask one question.
They did not condemn him.
The Blumenthal came out and said that he believed the accuser beyond any doubt. You would have to be disingenuous to say that they didn't set the stage to let Kavanaugh walk the plank specifically on lies. Not one person backed that woman up.
That's not true.
But name one. I watched the whole thing on TV.
So did I.
Name one person that corroborated her story. There wasn't one.
Yeah, there was some. They did not interview them. They did not. There was people that was calling the FBI to be interviewed because they had relevant data, and the FBI would not interview them because they had their marching orders. They interviewed. Well, no. Let me just hear me out. There was a lady who went to undergrad school with him who said that he had made phone calls to some of his former classmates telling them to disavow any stories about his drinking. Now here's my opinion, Rich. I went to college too. And I know some wild, crazy, stupid stuff some very good people I know today did that they're not very proud of. Now, if he had come out and said, and I tell you, he would have won me over if he did this. If he'd have come out and said, you know what, when I was in college, I wasn't a choir boy, and I may have been a little bit on the wild side, but I got my legs underneath me, and I got the business, and I went to work. He would have won me over. But trying to paint himself as the picture-perfect choir boy and demonizing her, I thought was disgusting.
Well, it wasn't hard to demonize her, considering she didn't tell the truth about 99% of the time.
Well, what did she lie about?
Well, she lied that she couldn't stay in a room that only had one door. She lied that she didn't like to fly. And when it comes right down to it, the only person who has more airtime than she did is Superman. She flew all over the world. She lied repeatedly. She lied about people that were corroborating her story. The people that she gave disavowed any knowledge of what she was talking about.
That's not true.
Well, again, name one person.
They didn't talk to him. They talked to four. They talked to four witnesses after they agreed to go back and do additional investigation. They talked to four witnesses, and she was not one of the four that they talked to. So they go back and they talk to four witnesses. There was at least...
That's not true. That's not true. They talked to more than four. When they did the investigation after the fact...
Rich, go look it up.
I don't have to look it up. I watched it.
I did too.
And they did not. You're telling me, and the listeners out there can check it out. All you have to do is tap Google. You're telling me that when they stopped everything to let the FBI conduct that investigation, they only talked to four people?
That's correct.
No, that's not correct.
Rich, go check it out and then get back to me, you will find out they talked to 4 people. Because there was a plethora of people that had contacted the FBI that had germane information that they did not accept. Now,
Well,
I don't even want to. I don't even want to get into whether I think he should or shouldn't be a Supreme Court justice. To me, that's not the important part. The important part to me is the process. The process stunk. They were dishonest. They decided that he was going to be a Supreme Court justice, and they were not going to let anything stop them.
Well, you said the process was dishonest and it stunk. I thought that maybe you were seeing the other side. You were talking about Feinstein and Schumer and the rest of them. I didn't realize that you were carrying on the same tired drumbeat. Because if you think the process stunk, you look at how they branded that man guilty before there was one word of testimony. And if there's anything that makes this country great and sets us apart from the rest of the world is you're presumed innocent. You have your day in court. If this was a trial, if this was a criminal defendant in a court, they wouldn't be able to try him because you wouldn't be able to get a fair jury. Everybody pronounced him guilty before he even stepped in before that hearing. My God.
Not me.
If there's anything in this world that sets us apart, that's it.
Well, I'm just going to
right for a day in court.
You started whining. You started whining before he even got into the hearing. You were already whining. I got a phone call from a very strong conservative friend of mine who's probably listening right now. And when he called me up, I said, now how can you possibly say this is fixed? You haven't heard anything yet. And he said, well, it is, and they shouldn't be treating this man this way. I said, wait a minute. You haven't heard anything yet. How are you talking about how they're treating him? You haven't heard anything. Wait till you hear something. And you know the last time that just happened? In this state, and Republicans do that because they bully Democrats, and Democrats allow themselves to be bullied. When the election of DeSantis and Gillum was coming down for the recount, they went out, Scott went on the warpath saying that it was fixed and that they were trying to steal the election away. And they had people down there saying, no, they're not. They're trying to find out and do the count the way it's supposed to be. So before there was any evidence that there was something fraudulent about what the vote was, they were out there whining and complaining about how the vote went. That's typical.
They were complaining that Palm Beach cannot get a count straight. I mean, how many years do they have to give it a shot before they'll get it straight?
Rich, the point is
what you're doing is, first of all, you said you were whining and complaining about Kavanaugh. You don't know me. I didn't whine and complain about anything. You're painting with a broad brush there.
When I said that was the colloquial you, okay?
Okay. I only thought from the very beginning that the hearing should have been conducted like any hearing where you have a presumption of innocence. For the opposition to do what they did, regardless of what information that they had or anything else, you have a right as a citizen to be presumed innocent and to have your day and to have your accuser present their story and your chance to take and rebut that. There's a reason why she didn't want him in the room. I mean, the entire thing stunk from the beginning to the end based on one thing and one thing only. They did not give him his day. They condemned him before it even started, and that's wrong.
Well, I didn't see it that way. Now, maybe I had my bias glasses on, but I will tell you this. Do you think Hillary was guilty?
I haven't seen her get her day in court. When she has the opportunity,
She had
explain to the-
6 hearings, Rich. 6.
when she
Four
has
of
her
them were
opportunity-
conducted. 4 of them were conducted by Republicans. Is she guilty or not guilty? Have we not heard enough? She did 11 hours of testimony in the chambers. Is she guilty or not? Now let's be consistent with what you said. We have had testimony, and she's never been convicted. Is she guilty?
her testimony has not centered on her server and destruction of public property. All that stuff. I mean, if you want to be honest and fair, everything that was destroyed belonged to the American taxpayer, not Hillary Clinton. She can present any story that she wants, and I would say the exact same thing, believe me, if it was a Republican. That's my money that you whacked with a hammer. You don't have the right to decide. It belongs to the taxpayer.
Okay. See the hypocrisy? See the hypocrisy? That's why there is hypocrisy, but that's why I pointed that out to you. She had a hearing. She testified for 11 hours. They've had all kind of investigations, over investigations, under investigations, and at the end of the day, there's been no criminal indictment. Loretta Lynch. Let me finish this. Loretta Lynch met Bill Clinton on the airport. They said they talked about their kids. Everybody that's a Republican indicted her, said she was crooked, and she was trying to fluff up Hillary's case. No evidence at all, but Republicans were perfectly confident and comfortable in making that statement.
And I agree with you. As strange as that may sound, I agree with you. There was no evidence because we don't know what took place in that plane. But I can tell you this. The mere fact that President Bill Clinton's wife was part of the entire investigation, Loretta Lynch should have never let him on the plane. What the heck was she thinking about?
He wasn't on this.
She's guilty of stupidity is what she's guilty of.
She's guilty of bad judgment.
He should have known better. He should have known better and never stepped on that plane, and she should have barred the door. But as far as what happened on the plane, I don't know. So I'm not going to make any wild guesses. I don't think we'll ever know what happened on the plane. But you have to admit, the impropriety of it is mind-boggling. Turn it around. If that was Jeff Sessions on the plane and a Republican stepped on it, or not Jeff Sessions, I'm sorry, what's his name? Sessions. What do you think would have been said? It would have been the scandal of the century.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's just wrong. I don't know what happened on that plane. You don't know what happened on that plane, but
that's
everything
true.
that led up to that is wrong.
Well, I will say that they've known each other for a number of years, and do I think well, let me finish. Do I think she used some bad judgment? Yes. Were they on the same plane together? No, they were not. They talked.
We were. They were on her plane.
They talked. They may have gotten on the plane to talk to each other, but they did not travel on the same plane back.
No, they didn't. You're
okay.
Right. You're 100% right. Her plane was on the ground.
That's right.
His plane landed. He went over and got on her plane.
Okay.
Everybody that was involved on the ground knew that was wrong, and Clinton knew it was wrong, and Lynch knew it was wrong, and they still did it because they know that they're bulletproof.
No, I don't think I don't see it that way. I know you see it that way. I see it as two old friends saw each other, not keeping in mind where their status is at that point in time in their lives. And they proceeded to reconnect and talk about their families. Now, was that bad judgment? Yes. Do I think it was malice? No. They've known each other a long time. What is so unusual? What's so unusual if you know somebody a long time? Now, what your burden is, and this is where you and I can agree, bad judgment. Now, once she understands she's the attorney general, she should not allow him to get on that plane to talk to her because of the appearance of impropriety.
Well, sir, she is the attorney general. Bill Clinton, prior to having his law license yanked by the state of Arkansas, was an attorney. You can't tell me that they didn't know better. You can't tell me that the bells and whistles didn't go off and people were looking and saying, this shouldn't be happening. If it were myself and you as old friends, I'm on one plane, you're on the other, we're not attorneys. You could say, well, it's an honest mistake. They just didn't know. But my God, the Attorney General of the United States
well,
and
Rich, I'm going to say, I'm going to say this, and then I got to let you go. The jail is full of people who made dumb decisions. That's how I'm going to say that. I'll leave that there.
I appreciate you having me on and let me state my piece. And if I'm talking a little bit too loud, it's because I'm hard of hearing and I tend to raise my voice a bit. So I'm sorry. I apologize.
No, you're fine. No, fine. I'm glad you called.
Excellent
Thank you.
Call. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
No problem. Okay. Yeah. We just went through a couple scenarios where you see there is a double standard. Yeah. Hillary had untold number, and I have one friend, and he says, there was no video. There was a guy who was involved in the attack who said there was a video. He has decided in his mind, and he's probably listening right now, that she lied about the video, and no matter how many investigations, she's going to be guilty in his mind forever. There's nothing anybody can say that would ever change his mind. And he was one of the main ones that called me up with Kavanaugh and went nuts when they were questioning Kavanaugh. It's amazing. But see, like I said, it's so hard because I ask for civility in 2019, but I can only give civility to a certain point because we have to stand our ground. We can't allow the Republicans to continue to bully us all the time. That's just not going to work.
And we don't want to get into the civil disobedience part either, because that's a long, hard road.
Yeah.
And some of the great leaders of our day, Dr. Martin Luther King, did peaceful protests. They didn't have to be civil disobedience, like doing something against the government's wishes to make a point. And, of course, then you got to have a lawyer already if you're going to do something these days.
Yeah.
But you got to...
Let's take a quick break.
We can do that.
And
wow.
We'll take a quick break. And if you want to call in, we got a few minutes left. I want to hear what you're looking forward to in 2019.
Optimistically now.
Yes. Okay.
9 minutes left. Give us a call, 340-1590.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Serving the entire Treasure Coast, Howard Insurance and Associates in Port St. Lucie offers a wide variety of insurance products, along with the very best customer service. Whether you're shopping for the best homeowners coverage at the most affordable value, contact Rudy Howard's team at Howard Insurance and Associates. If you need coverage for your vehicle, call Howard Insurance and Associates, 343-9878. That's 343-9878. Maybe you're planning to add a boat, motorcycle, or RV. Call Howard Insurance and Associates for your free quote at 343-9878 and get the coverage you need at a cost that will fit your budget. For home or business, auto or recreational vehicle, choose Howard Insurance and Associates, 600 Southwest Darwin Boulevard, Suite 206, Port St. Lucie. And for your free rate quote, call them at 343-9878, 343-9878.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
And you're listening to the African American scene. Once again, here's your host, Rudy Howard.
So tell me, what do you want for 2019? What would you like to see happen? What changes would you like to see happen in our country as we enter 2019?
They need to, when they sell you internet service, they need to let you have enough bandwidth to do something.
Yeah.
But there's some big stuff out there, folks. What's a good opportunistic? What is a good positive detail that you'd like to add to our immediate nearby future? The new year. We always want to have a resolution that we can hold somebody to. You make a resolution. You didn't hold your resolution. And we're all shamed and embarrassed with ourselves because our friends remembered what we had resolved to do. Can you resolve maybe somehow, some way, to picture in your mind, if you will, a kinder and gentler you? If you can't change everybody, you can change yourself, right?
Yes.
And
I threw this gauntlet down before, and this might be a good time to do it again.
Yeah.
One of the things that Cliff and I tell you all the time that is keys to bringing our country closer together is to get to know somebody that's different than you.
Yeah.
And what I would like for you to do for me as we move into 2019, once a month, go to dinner with somebody who's different than you. Puerto Rican, Indian, Muslim, black guy, white guy, whatever. Once a month. Just try it.
A family home or church picnic will do, really, because the culture of the food itself. Do you know what soul food is, friends? Do you know why they call it soul food? Do you know what it does for you? It's a big secret to the people who don't know. It's only a secret to those who don't know. Try some.
Yeah, that's really. And I would like for you to really take me up on that. Once a month, you know what? I'll even go once a quarter.
Yeah.
Once a quarter, I would like for you to make the overt effort to go out and have a dinner or have somebody come to your house.
Well, it's 4 times a year you can actually better yourself.
Yeah, and with somebody who's different than you.
Yeah.
Try that.
And then somebody's going to say, well, I'm not going to go visit any LGBT people. Oh, yeah? What are you going to do about your son? You got to think about that. You want to cast stones, but you got to realize that you might be overlooking your own family sometimes when you hate something and then come to find out, it's closer than you think, and the hate's not going to help it.
That would be a tough one,
Yeah.
but hey, you'd have to. I don't have any animus. I don't know if I told you this story before, but I know when my mother changed her mind about the lesbian gay thing, there was a kid in her church, and when that little kid was 5 or 6 years old, you could see he was gay. He just was gay. I mean, it was no doubt in your mind. At 5 or 6 years old, you took one look at him, and he was just as gay as you could be. And when he became 18, guess what? He was gay. So I know that had a profound impact on my mother, because she said, that's a situation I watched develop over a lifetime, and that kid was gay at 5, and he was gay at 18.
Of course, the kids have different names at different ages.
Yeah.
You remember there was always the kid they called the sissy.
Yes.
And but folks, you got to be real careful out there because you're not just chatting with the guys anymore. There might not be guys, but it's a much different world than what we grew up in, Rudy. But we have to live here and we have to be a part of it. So we need to be probably a little more open to the friendship factor of all that. Not what you're going to get out of it, not what you're afraid about it, but are you a good friend to everybody? You know, don't ask yourself how good are your friends to you, how good are you to your friends.
And here's the other thing. How tolerant are you of people who have a different ideology than you do?
Yeah.
Do you even listen to them or make any attempt to understand their point of view?
Not with a closed mind.
Yeah.
A great darkness has fallen over everybody.
Yes.
Ignorance. That's the worst kind of darkness. Because
Yeah,
you don't know.
Yeah. You have to be open to listen. I can't tell you, doing this show now for 8, almost 9 years, I have learned so much about conservatism from talking to all the people that have called in on this show. I have a much different attitude about conservatism today than I had when I started this show 8 years ago. Because I've listened to people, they've talked to me, and in some instances they've persuaded me with some of their ideas about how they feel about some things.
And I bet somebody out there missed that. Somebody actually missed that. They didn't even see it coming. And sometimes the truth will do that too. You'll be believing something for a long time, then the truth hits you, and you have to do something. You have to face a decision within yourself to whether you're going to change your mind or your actions. Because if you're proven wrong about something, doesn't it only make sense to try to make some kind of a correction within yourself? Makes sense to me. Wow, we did it again.
Yeah,
Goes
folks,
fast.
I'd like to thank you so much for tuning into the African American scene. God bless. Be safe. Have a very safe New Year's. And I will see you in 2019.
And keep thinking about what Rudy was looking for tonight on the show. Somebody who has a positive outlook, who would like to tell us what you think the way it should be. That's what we need to know. How do you think it should be? You back next week?
Week after. Next week I'm going to do the basketball game with Greg.
All right. Larry Elder, the Sage of Sacramento, coming up next. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, celebrating 25 years and counting. We are the talk of the Treasure Coast.